Welcome back to the TMCJ podcast. We are on segment 2, our media segment, which we've already talked about off air. That I think this is going to bleed into segment 3. We don't have anything particularly special planned for segment 3, and there has been quite a bit of media this week. But we've both been watching some stuff offline, and then we also had movie night. So, what do you want to feel like? Should we start off with the movie we watched?
Yeah, we should start off with the joint one.
Okay. Well, so we watched. It was Alicia's choice this week, and it was Hot Fuzz, a movie that somehow I had not only never seen, but I had no idea what the plot twist in that was going to be.
And after half an hour of fiddling around, we got it working.
Yeah, YouTube video sharing. Maybe not as. Speaking of, streaming services, because normally it's two of the big ones, Amazon and Netflix, that we're ragging on, but this time it was YouTube and Discord, and just not wanting to cooperate.
But so Hot Fuzz is all about a policeman from London who gets assigned to a little country village because he's showing up the rest of the force.
Yeah.
And the little country village turns out to be basically run by a cult of elderly. Okay.
Two things. We should preface this that this is going to be spoiler ridden. So if you want to see the if you want to experience the plot twist like I did, then just watch the movie before you listen to this. But 2, I feel like showing up the rest of the force in London needs a little bit more explanation. He set new fitness records. He was arresting hundreds of people above his quota. He was
a 400% arrest rate or something.
Something crazy like that. And he was a robot in terms of how he talked to people. He was he knew all the police regulations by heart and everything. So that's what we mean when we say he was showing up the rest of the force, and so everyone else was kind of okay, get this guy out of here. You're making us look bad. But go on.
Well, no, I was just giving a basic synopsis. So yes, he comes across this village, and everyone seems to be denying any kind of, what's the right word?
Crimes, misdemeanors.
Yeah,
issues.
Everything that happened by accident in the village.
Yeah.
For the good of the village. The greater good, sorry.
The greater good.
Yep. And it's basically a comedy about the police force in England, and it's very funny.
Yeah, I
recommend it.
I do have to say, the first half of the movie, it's a 2-hour movie, and the first hour was just this comedy about it could have been just that first hour, and it would have just been a comedy about a cop from London who overdoes it, and he's way too serious about his job, gets sent to the countryside, and then just has to adjust to rural life. The biggest crime he has to deal with is chasing a swan that got out of a castle.
Yeah.
And or dealing with a guy who was picked a guy that was shoving stuff in his pockets from a grocery store, right?
Yeah.
And he's just he's missing his old life, dealing with serious criminals and stuff like that. And he has to deal with this fat kind of. Actually, one of the first people he brings in, I found this part funny, was one of the first people he brings in was this guy who drank 8 beers in 10 seconds and then tried to climb into his car, and so he brought him into the police station and locks him up. And the next day when he goes for work for the first day, he's like, where's the suspect that I locked up last night? And he's like, oh, he's right there. And he's behind him wearing a police uniform, and he's like, why are you wearing that uniform? He's like, because I am a policeman. He's actually he's the chief inspector of the police station's son, and I don't know. There's a lot of very amusing moments in the movie, I found.
Yeah.
But then the second half of the movie which is the twist I'm talking about. That I gave the warning about. What Blue was talking about with the whole cult thing is the town. Like, he starts to notice like these accidents that are happening around the town are like, they all seem to be slightly connected. Like, two people get decapitated, and they're arranged to make it look like a car crash. There's a person whose house blows up, and it's made to look like he was, frying up breakfast, and the gas like caught on something and it exploded. There's a person who dies because a piece of scaffolding like crushes their head, and it's made to look like, a church roof that was falling apart like broke and it killed him. And all of these things, the cop starts to notice they're connected, and he finds out that the town is run, like Blue was saying, by a cult. The Neighborhood Watch is actually a cult that has been murdering anyone that makes their town look bad, so they can keep winning the nicest village to live in award or something like that.
Yeah, Village of the Year.
Village of the Year, that's what it was. And then the rest of the movie suddenly turns into like a buddy cop like action thriller where he barely gets away, and him and the fat cop from the beginning go on like this giant like gunfight all throughout the town with the Neighborhood Watch. They've all got like World War I machine guns and shotguns, and
yeah, so it's very like opposite. It's this nice, peaceful little village. People going past on little bicycles with, lunchboxes and stuff like that. And then suddenly the lunchboxes open and they have dual Berettas in them, and they're firing at these guys. Guy comes in on a white horse with 2 shotguns on his back.
Yeah.
They just end up fighting across this little town. A bunch of pensioners wielding all kinds of machine guns.
There's so many like good bits in that too. Like the old guy that comes out, like most of them have like guns and stuff, and an old guy comes out with a fucking saber and starts and he's fighting him with like a billy club. Like they have a sword fight in the middle of the street. It's a ridiculous, over the top like action sequence to end the movie, and I didn't see any of it coming because like I thought it was just going to be this silly, goofy thing about a small town. This cop gets put there, and then there's a series of crimes, and he solves them, and that's how the movie gets resolved. But when that plot kind of was coming to an end an hour through the movie, I'm like, what do they do for the next hour?
Yeah.
And then it just that all happened.
Could easily be just a different movie, yeah.
There's a very clear divide in the movie, and there's so many bits in that made me fucking like.
Yeah, I feel like we've talked about all the cool parts. There are so many funny parts.
So, I'm gonna get the one that keeps making me giggle whenever I think about it out of the way. There's a scene where the serious cop is chasing down a thief from the grocery store, the one I was talking about earlier, and he decides to take a shortcut through people's backyards. And they have these fences that are only about like 3 or 4 feet high. And so he just like vaults and leaps over them and does like a somersault over the last one,
he does like a ninja jump.
Yeah, over the very last one. And then the fat local cop decides he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do that too. And he goes to jump the first one and just plows into it and takes the fence down. He just knocks a hole in the thing. And we have ourselves muted during this movie night so that we're not interrupting each other when we're like watching it with commentary or background noise or anything. But yeah. I nearly fell out of my chair laughing at that part. Oh my god. Sorry, go on. I'm gonna take a second to recover.
That's right. Yeah. God, there were just so many funny parts, and some of them are quite subtle. Others weren't. Like the what's it called? Word puzzle thing at the beginning. Crossword.
Oh yeah.
Where she's like fascist. He's like, excuse me, 11 down.
Yeah, and at the end he's like hag, and she's like, excuse me, and he's like, 3 down or 3 across.
Yeah.
It's just
it's just like every other line is funny in some way,
Yeah,
and
it's some
like there's a
kind of
lot of different kinds of comedy as well. There's some slightly more adult humor. There's some that is
that's
quite family.
that's something that I feel like a lot of comedy, a lot of big name comedy movies fall into the trap of. They'll they'll commit themselves to one kind of humor, right?
Hmm.
It's either all like, body humor, all like crass toilet humor, all
Yeah,
like intellectual humor. It's there's but this one
like you had the
really.
female police officer who was obviously a very niche humor jokes that came out of her.
I love.
Um, but then at the same time, you had like the whole swan escapade.
Yeah,
It
which
was
is
very family friendly.
yeah. The female police officer, I think that was oh god, she had she had a really good line in the beginning of the movie, and I'm trying to remember it. Like they the police inspector's going around introducing everyone, and he's like, and this is our only policewoman, and he's like, actually, we're supposed to refer to everyone as a police officer now. And it's like, it's to avoid sexism. And she's like, I don't know, I've gotten a lot of use out of it, or something like that. And it just, I can't remember the exact line because it was actually very. I thought it was clever, like the way.
You talking about the one where she was saying, "I can show you around. I've been around the police station
Yes,
a few
that
times
one.
anyway."
Yeah, yeah. She
Yeah,
she says something right before that too, because that's what leads into it, and there was just like, it was funny on the surface, but then it was followed up by the whole double entendre.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I really liked. I mean, I was the goose part. I just found very funny, especially at the end when they both swerve off the road.
So
Um,
this is this is my so we talked whenever action movies and stuff like this come up, the shooting bits always are something that I comment on, and I can't help myself. I'm sorry.
mm,
But like, because you have the classic action movie tropes of like somebody is firing a double barrel shotgun 4 times before they have to reload, and it's like, okay, fine, whatever. It's just, it's over the top and it's funny. But at the end, when the fat cop was firing his gun in the air, and it looked like the other guy was going to get away, my mind immediately went, "Oh, those bullets are going to come down. They'll probably hit the car, a few miles down the road, and that'll be the joke." No, it was the Swan. The Swan was still in the car. Like, this is I was thinking in terms of like bullet velocity and trajectory, and not, oh right, this is just a simple comedy movie.
yeah,
But the movie had enough intelligent bits that I was giving it that much credit. I think that's another that's
mm,
what I'll not that I have like a bit of a overactive imagination, just that it was, I was giving it too much credit.
yeah. I mean, there is also maybe if you're of a nervous disposition, there are a couple of jump scares in it.
Mm.
I know, even though I'm expecting them, I did jump a couple of times because they timed the music perfectly with the big, like, the guy coming out of his hotel room, like throwing him into the wall. I knew that was going to happen, but it still made me jump. Uh,
Oh yeah, yeah, I know the part you're talking about. That actually
uh,
didn't. I think I may have been like, I think I may have actually been looking at my phone when that happened.
oh,
Because I remember, like, okay, he's going back to his hotel room, and I was just listening to it, and then I was like, oh, I got a text message, and then I looked back up, and I was like, holy shit, there's a fight scene going on.
yeah. Um, and the
There,
same with like every time they would walk away, and it would like show the hooded figure. It would suddenly do that particular like piano note. And I'd be like, oh,
oh
oh
my
what?
god, the character of the shop owner, right, the store owner, the guy with the
Yeah.
mustache,
Hmm.
like, that guy was perfect in that role. Like, he just oozed the villain vibe.
Yeah, very evil. Mind you, there's a lot of British villains out there.
Yeah. There,
Like, they
oh,
quite often play the bad guy.
do you know who the actor Brian Cox is?
Yeah, yeah.
So I used to watch, back when
Wait, actor Brian Cox.
the actor Brian Cox, yeah.
Hang on.
He's been in a bunch of roles. He was in Troy. He played Agamemnon when we talked
Do you
about
mean? So Brian Cox is the astronomer.
that. Wait, what? That can't be right. Hold on. Talk about the movie while I check.
Do you mean Brian Blessed?
No, I don't mean Brian Blessed.
Yeah, Brian Cox is the
No, I do mean Brian Cox.
But-
Briancox. Brian Cox.
Yeah.
Look him up on IMDb. He's Brian
English
Cox.
physicist and former musician who serves as professor
my
of
God.
particle physics.
Brian Cox is an Emmy Award-winning Scottish actor. He was born on June 1st, 1946 in Dundee, Scotland, to Mary Ann Gilliline Cox.
We both get two different answers when we type in Brian Cox, because I get the physicist.
Oh my god. Well, I looked it up on IMDb because I knew I was looking for an actor. There you go.
Okay.
Anyway.
That's why when you said it, I was like, yes, I know who you're talking about. No, I don't understand.
Anyway, so I was watching Top Gear back when it was hosted by the real presenters, and they did an interview. He was on there being interviewed one time, and the question was asked by Jeremy Clarkson. You know, why do British people get cast as the villain so many times? And Brian Cox's answer made me laugh. He's like, "Well, I think it's because Americans fear intelligence." And it's like he's like the British accent, you know, has that air of intelligence. I think they fear intelligence. It made me it amused me because you're right.
I think we can. Sorry.
There are quite a few, especially a posh British accent does sound very
Pretentious.
and
we can
villainous.
definitely get pretentious and awesomely. Also, we have a firm grasp on sarcasm.
Well, yeah. Whereas you don't really get that in most of the U.S.
Yeah. So there's a lot of Bond villains who are British with like the black Mercedes and yeah.
I was brought up on a healthy diet of sarcasm.
Delicious.
Oh my god. Anyway, so I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to talk about from that movie or
Well, there's the other two movies that are attached to it. So I feel like good.
Hold on. Let's stick to this one, and then we can kind of close with talking about the fact that it is related to other stuff. I'm trying to think of like the plot if there was anything else that. Oh, there was one other thing. The landmine. Well, sea mine. They go out to talk to like this country farmer who there was a complaint that he was cutting down like his neighbor's hedges, and he's at the end of the conversation. Like the guy's carrying a shotgun. It's a double barrel, but it's opened, so it's not like cocked. And the cop asks if he has a license for the firearm, and he goes, "This one." And the cop's like, "What do you mean this one?" And they go into his shed, and he's got a full arsenal of like modern and World War I and II era weapons, including a old rusty sea mine. And like they look at, if you've never seen like a sea mine, like that era of weapon. Picture what coronavirus looks like if you've ever seen an illustration of it, that but made of metal, and it explodes if a ship touches it.
A big spiky ball.
Big spiky ball, exactly. And he asks if it's live, and he's like, aren't you afraid this thing's gonna blow up? And the farmer's like, "No, it's an old piece of junk," and he whacks it with the shotgun. And then you hear noises inside the thing, and they think the whole place is gonna blow up.
Yeah.
But it doesn't.
How effective would a sea mine be, explosive-wise? Because surely it's designed to create, like, pressure. It's not really
No, it would actually, like... I'm not 100% sure, but you actually need a lot more explosive force to cause damage in the water than you need to cause damage on land. So it probably would be a lot more dangerous above water.
Okay.
Um, so the fact that they anyway, so like at the end of that scene when they realize it's not going to blow up, like he's calling it in and like reporting it to the station, and in the background the fat cop and the old guy are just whacking the sea mine. See, it doesn't work. It's a piece of junk. And they keep whacking. And it's clearly making the cop like uncomfortable. Like he's trying to ignore the fact that they're slapping a giant explosive right behind him. There were so many parts of that movie that just made me laugh.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you wanted to talk about the movies that are related to it?
Yeah, so at some point I'm going to make you watch Shaun of the Dead. That's
Okay.
a given.
Which again, I at some point I'm gonna make you watch Juan of the Dead.
Yeah. Um, so Shaun of the Dead it's the same Nick Frost and Simon Pegg. Except they fight zombies instead of, pensioners. And at World's End is all about um, I think it's a reunion from like when they were in school with a bunch of other people, and they're going on a pub crawl, which they never were able to complete as teenagers, but now they're adults, they're giving it another go, and that has a big. Well, I mean, to be fair, I'm probably not going to show you that movie because I'm not. I don't know. Maybe
Not a
we'll
big
end up
fan of
watching
it.
it one day. But so it turns from just a pub crawl, and then every time they go to a new pub, they're like, something weird happens each time. It gets weirder, and then by the end of it, there's like they've worked out that most of the people in like I don't know if it's like just the village or if it's half the world or something have been uh, beaten up, taken away out of the picture, and replaced with these alien robots. Uh, and then they get to the last pub, and something I can't remember how it happens, but the whole pub like descends into the bowels of the earth, and there's millions of these robot people. And there's like some weird decision they have whether they want to explode the world or something, or just
I really
let
want
it
to see
happen.
this movie now.
Okay for plot twists. It's one hell of a plot twist, but I don't know. It's just so fucking weird.
I mean, it's the same with like this one. It seems to be the shtick that I'm getting is that like from
Yeah,
all these movies.
there's more. It's more grounded in reality that is Hot Fuzz. Um, Shaun of the Dead is all about the zombie apocalypse is happening. What should we do? Let's go to the pub and wait it out. Because I'm sure everyone at some point, or at least every person who's slightly nerdish, has thought what would be the best place to go when there's a zombie apocalypse.
I mean, I already pretty much
Uh,
live in a bunker, so.
and yeah, and you're well armed and everything. In England, not so much. So they're armed with like I don't know gardening tools and spud guns or whatever. And it's a comedy, but it's a zombie comedy. So
Well, see, that's one of the reasons that I want to show you Juan of the Dead. It's basically that same premise, but set in communist Cuba.
yeah, and they think the zombies are
Dissidents.
foreigners. Yeah,
Yeah, and they have the same situation because no one's armed, so they have to use the same thing. They have to use like gardening tools or bats or whatever the hell they can come to hand.
yeah. It's a lot like Zombieland. I don't know if you've seen that.
I have. I love that movie.
Yeah, Zombieland is good.
Zombie. I haven't.
Um,
I know there's a sequel. I haven't seen it, but I heard. I mean, like most sequels, I've heard it didn't live up to the hype in the original. But
right.
no, Zombieland's that's a good one.
Mm.
I really like that movie.
Anyway, should we move on to the next topic?
Yes. No. Well, let's because I have been wanting. So Star Wars has kind of gone down a weird road since Disney took over, and it's been a mixed bag.
Hang
Believe
on,
me.
hang on.
What? Sorry. What?
Because I have two like topics. Shall I talk about mine and then you talk about yours, then I talk about the other one?
Uh,
Or do you want to just go straight ahead?
well, this one that I'm talking about is probably going to bring us to the end of segment 2. And then,
Okay,
since segment 3 we don't have anything planned, we're just, by the way, I said at the beginning, but we're just going to, there's nothing special for segment 3 this week. Sorry, we're just going to keep talking about media because we've been a bunch of lazy fucking couch potatoes this week and just watched movies.
We've watched a
and
lot of TV,
shows. Yeah. So, yeah, Star Wars, since Disney took over, has been a bit of a mixed bag. On one hand, they have kind of decided to breathe new life and put out a whole bunch of new media, TV shows, movies, side stories and things, books and things. On one hand, I'm like, great, they're putting out a whole bunch of new content. You know, as long as they get some people that are actually competent, they're going to put out some great stuff. Unfortunately, they didn't do that. They got a bunch of people who were basically hacks. The person who took over Lucasfilm from George Lucas is basically an incompetent movie producer who just knew the right people. That being said, like, the first Star Wars sequel movie was pretty okay. I mean, it was probably on the same level as the prequels, right?
I mean,
Force Awakens.
yeah, if they just replaced the main villain, then I would honestly have been happy with that, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. But it was pretty well done. Like, it was kind of more actiony than a lot of the old Star Wars movies. It has the same plague that a lot of modern sci-fi has. It's just a whole bunch of like rapid fire, nonstop action, people running around and shouting, and there's not enough time to pay attention to the plot.
Yeah. It's like they're trying to spend their budget as fast as possible.
Yeah. Then they came out with the second one, which was I saw it because they had it up free on Netflix for a while, and that's when I watched it. There were bits of it that I just had to fast forward through. It was so bad.
I haven't seen the second one.
I've
I've seen the third one though.
The Last Jedi, I think, is what it's called. I haven't seen the third one. Because the second one turned me off so much I couldn't watch the third one. This long rambling preface is to bring me to the point that they have done a bunch of good side projects. Rogue One was a side movie they did. Absolutely loved it. It was a spectacular movie. Like, it had it had its flaws, but I loved it. I watched it once, and then like 2 days later I was still thinking about it, and I watched it again. Like, that's a good movie. They also came out with the series The Mandalorian, which has been pretty critically acclaimed. But that one you can only watch if you have a Disney Plus subscription. And I already have Netflix, and I already have Amazon Prime, so I didn't want to pay for another subscription. But now they came out with a second season. But now they came out with a second season of it. So I'm like, all right, it's $7 for a month. I'm going to buy a month of it and just get my money's worth. So, and it was worth it, because for $7 I plowed through the entire first season of The Mandalorian, which is what I actually wanted to talk about. And I can see why people liked it, but it has its flaws. Let me put it that way. It's very much like a Western kind of thing, where it's like, you know, lone gunman walking around and doing his thing. And it focuses on the Mandalorians, which are a faction that I think didn't get fleshed out nearly enough in the Star Wars movies or media to date. Because they're talked up a lot in the Knights of the Old Republic series, but not a lot in the main media for Star Wars. So I was happy to see an
old board game where you would collect figures and cards for it, and it was kind of like Star Wars' answer to Warhammer. And I remember Mandalorian warriors and beasts and things were in there, and they were really cool. Like, their designs, like some of the beasts they had were like huge hulking back creatures with miniguns for faces.
Yep.
And I remember them being really awesome, but I never remember seeing or hearing anything about them in the films.
One of the coolest things that they have, coolest pieces of technology that only shows up in KOTOR 2. KOTOR being the abbreviation for Knights of the Old Republic,
Hmm.
is the Mandalorian Basilisk war droids. They're these giant, like, hulking, like, single-person fighters that are heavily armed, heavily armored, and meant to make, like, planetary drops. They're really cool. Anyway, so the main character is a Mandalorian. Basically, they're like a warrior people. Think like
Wait, what were they called? Mandalorian.
a Basilisk war droid.
Basilisk. Thank you.
So basically, they're like these warrior peoples. They're like Boba Fett or Jango Fett from the Star Wars movies. They're essentially like a one-man arsenal. They've got like flamethrowers and rockets and little like wrist
Yeah.
launchers and rifles.
This
and
is actually the
blasters.
thing that I was talking about as a bat with a minigun for a face. I've actually got like a model of this somewhere.
Oh, really? The Basilisk?
Yeah, I'll send you the picture of the one that I've got.
Nice. Anyway, so talking about this series specifically, so I was really happy, first of all, that it was focused on the Mandalorians, and one in particular. I blew through the first season in a week. Like, I just could not stop watching it. And it wasn't because the series was, like, spectacular. It was because it was so much better than I had lost hope for Star Wars. Honestly, I thought the series was dead after the last two movies.
Pun intended?
Wait, what?
Well, I mean, there's a New Hope, and then you
Oh.
saying you've lost hope.
Oh, come on. That was not. Damn it! That was not supposed to be a pun.
Okay.
But this series, I think, breathed hope that they still have some competent writers at Lucasfilm, and they're allowing them to put out good stuff. The first episode was very good. The second episode was just busy work. Like, I remember watching the episode and kind of rolling my eyes when they got to like the 5-minute mark in the episode, because I'm like, oh, this is gonna take up the whole episode, and it was just this stupid little busy work for the rest of the episode. But then it starts to pick up again, and there's cool things, and it's just like he goes. Most of the episodes are self-contained, meaning like they open with a plot point being introduced, and they resolve the plot point by the end of the episode. But there is like an overarching plot that goes across the whole series. It's 8 episodes long. They're like 30 to 40 minutes each for an episode. I'm already watching season 2, and I'm loving that just as much. And it has like a satisfying conclusion. Like, just I was very, very happy with the first season, but it's not. There are plot holes, there are issues, but it's a good series to just sit down and enjoy. Like, if you kind of look the other way with a couple of the plot holes, because they're not so glaring that it takes you out of the experience. They're there if you really think about it.
Yeah.
But I absolutely loved it. Yeah, I'm mooning over the series at this point, but
It sounds like one of those shows, like when we watch Die Hard, where there's not a great deal of actual like topics to discuss on it, but it sounds like it's just a really fucking cool film.
Yeah.
TV series.
yeah, that's actually a perfect metaphor. Because Die Hard, yeah, exactly. We didn't have a whole lot to talk about. There's not a whole lot of deep philosophy. Riddick too. We had the same reaction to that one.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of deep philosophy, but it was just enjoyable to watch.
Hmm.
So I'm watching season 2 now. They're introducing some new characters. Some other Mandalorians came in. There's a bit of a plot twist. They're reintroducing something that I really loved from the old Star Wars canon, which are they're these they're called Dark Troopers. They're essentially the Empire's attempt at making like unstoppable war droids. And at first Sorry?
Are those the ones that accompanied General Grievous?
No. This was they were in Empire time.
Right.
So it was long after that, because Grievous
But
was Clone Wars.
What about Empire? So Empire's post, right?
Yeah, Empire's like, so they showed up like somewhere in between episode 4 and 5. So
Right.
in
It's not the
between,
Emperor's bodyguards that had like the red capes and
no,
the.
no, 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 no. These were so in old Star Wars. So Star Wars has kind of been divided into legends and canon now because the person who took over Lucasfilm, the person I was trash talking earlier, decided
Hmm.
arbitrarily, okay, all the books, extended universe games, it's all non-canon now. Get it out of here. So they could
Yeah.
start with a fresh slate because they couldn't be bothered to read all of that other crap. Which I think was a horrible decision because they had tons of extra material they could have used to make TV shows and movies and stuff, and now they've basically thrown it out the window.
Yeah. I mean, there was one quote in just after the arena scene where they're escaping, and there's a huge fight. I think
Yeah.
it's really close to the Clone Wars, and one person goes over to Yoda, or I think it's Yoda, it might be Mace Windu, and says, "There's a specialist group of clones that we need you to see."
Hmm.
And they made the whole Republic Commando game off of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was a fucking amazing game.
Yeah, I enjoyed that game too. But
Yeah.
to finish my thought, the Dark Troopers, they're Empire age, and basically in the old Star Wars canon, it was the Empire needed a way to like kind of stomp out the rebels, and so what they did was they took crippled or dying stormtroopers and essentially genetically modified them and grafted them into like power like armor essentially to make what they
Yeah.
call dark troopers, which are these super powerful like mindless killing machines that were fused with droids. They eventually got rid of those and then made fully robotic ones. So basically, these giant hulking tanks that were essentially just killing machines.
Yeah, Dreadnoughts.
Yeah, and so they just at the episode that I just left off on Mandalorian season 2, they just revealed that they're bringing those back, like into the Star
Right.
Wars universe. And I saw those, and there's such a cool concept from the old Star Wars that I'm just really excited to see them come back.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing them in the films.
They
but
were
I
never in
do
the films.
recognize.
They were in games, and they were in books.
Okay. Yeah, the are the Dark Troopers in the Battlefront 2?
Yes.
They're the ones with the jetpacks
Yep.
and the slight dark armor.
Yep.
They were like the worst fucking unit.
Yeah, I know that's not a very good portrayal of them in that game. I was wondering if you would bring that up. Yeah, they're portrayed as they're kind of a shitty unit in that game.
That's the only place I've known them from.
All right, well, so we should probably end segment 2 here because I know you've got more stuff to talk about because
Yeah.
you've been watching another TV show. So we're going to end segment 2 there. Thank you all for listening. We're going to continue with media in segment 3 this week. But until then, thank you for listening.